Hello and welcome to Unfiltered Reflections, the podcast where we dive deep into the complexities of the human experience. I'm your host, Passion, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today. In this very first episode, we're going to explore something that touches all of us in different ways: triggers. Now, the word trigger has become quite common in our modern vocabulary, but what does it really mean? And more importantly, how do we navigate the often turbulent waters they create within us? Think about it. What are the things that, when you encounter them, instantly flood you with a specific emotion? Maybe it's a certain song that brings back memories of a past relationship, perhaps a specific phrase that someone used to say to you, or even a particular smell that conjures up a forgotten childhood experience. Those, my friends, are triggers. So what exactly is a trigger? Let's get a little more specific. Triggers are essentially events, situations, or even people that can evoke strong emotional reactions within us. They're like emotional landmines, waiting to be stepped on, and when they are, boom. For some, these triggers can be a source of anxiety, stress, or even re-traumatization. It's a very personal experience, and what triggers one person might be completely innocuous to another. It's perfectly natural to want to avoid these emotional landmines, to want to protect ourselves from the often negative emotions they bring up, to steer clear of the things that make us feel vulnerable or uncomfortable. And that's where the dilemma begins. Because while avoidance might feel like the easiest option in the short term, is it really the best strategy for our long-term emotional well-being? Today, we're going to unpack this question and explore why sometimes the most challenging path, the path of confronting our triggers, can also be the most rewarding. Now, let's be honest. The immediate instinct when faced with a trigger is often to run, to hide, to shut down. We might actively avoid certain places, certain people, certain conversations. We might change the channel when a particular topic comes up on TV, or scroll past a post on social media that we know will stir up difficult feelings. And there's nothing inherently wrong with these avoidance tactics, especially in the short term. Sometimes we need to give ourselves space, time to breathe, time to regroup. However, if avoidance becomes our default response, if it becomes a pattern, we risk creating a self-imposed prison, a life lived within increasingly narrow boundaries. Think about it. What happens when we constantly avoid the things that trigger us? We never learn how to effectively cope with those emotions. We never develop the tools and strategies we need to navigate those difficult situations. We remain stuck in a cycle of reactivity, constantly at the mercy of our triggers. It's like trying to build a muscle without ever lifting weights. You might feel safe in the short term, but you'll never gain the strength and resilience you need to face future challenges. So, what's the alternative? The alternative, my friends, is to confront our triggers, to stand in their midst, and to learn from the experience. Now, before you start picturing yourself diving headfirst into every single thing that makes you uncomfortable, let me clarify something. Confronting your triggers doesn't mean throwing caution to the wind. It's not about recklessly putting yourself in harm's way. It's about a conscious and deliberate process of self-exploration. It's about taking a deep breath, acknowledging the emotion, and choosing how you want to respond. It's about recognizing that the trigger itself is not the problem. The problem is our reaction to the trigger. And by learning to manage that reaction, we can begin to disarm the trigger's power over us. This is where the real growth happens. So how do we actually do this? How do we confront our triggers in a way that's safe, productive, and ultimately beneficial? Well, there's no one-size-fits-all answer, of course. But here are a few strategies that can be helpful. 1. Awareness is key. The first step is simply to become aware of your triggers. Start paying attention to the situations, people, and things that consistently evoke strong emotional reactions within you. Keep a journal, notice patterns, and start to identify the specific elements that seem to be the catalysts. For example, let's say you find yourself consistently feeling anxious whenever you're in a crowded room. Your trigger might be the feeling of being overwhelmed, the lack of personal space, or the constant noise and stimulation. Once you identify this trigger, you can start to explore it more deeply. 2. Gradual exposure. This is where the confrontation part comes in, but it doesn't have to be a sudden, overwhelming experience. Instead, try a gradual approach. Start small. Expose yourself to the trigger in a controlled environment. If crowded rooms are a trigger, maybe start by spending a few minutes in a small, less crowded space, like a coffee shop during off-peak hours. Gradually increase the exposure over time. Maybe you can spend more time in the coffee shop, and then eventually work your way up to a larger, more crowded environment. 3. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for navigating triggers. When you feel the trigger starting to activate, take a deep breath. Focus on your breath and simply observe the emotions that are arising without judgment. Acknowledge the physical sensations in your body, the racing heart, the tight chest, the butterflies in your stomach. Don't try to suppress the emotions. Simply observe them as they come and go. This helps you create a space between the trigger and your reaction. 4. Challenge negative thoughts. Triggers often activate negative thought patterns. Things like, I'm going to fail. I'm not good enough. This is going to be awful. Recognize these thoughts for what they are and challenge them. Ask yourself, are these thoughts based on facts or are they based on fear? What's the evidence to support these thoughts? What's the evidence to contradict them? Replace negative thoughts with more balanced and realistic ones. 5. Seek support. You don't have to go through this alone. Talk to a trusted friend, family member, or therapist. Share your experiences and ask for support. A therapist can provide guidance, tools, and a safe space to process your emotions. 6. Practice self-compassion. This is perhaps the most important step. Be kind to yourself throughout this process. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to have setbacks. Treat yourself with the same compassion and understanding you would offer a dear friend. Remember that you're human and that you're doing the best you can. 7. Celebrate small victories. Acknowledge and celebrate every step you take, no matter how small. Did you spend 5 minutes in a slightly crowded room without feeling overwhelmed? Celebrate that. Did you challenge a negative thought and replace it with a more positive one? Celebrate that. These small victories build momentum and reinforce your progress. 8. Remember your why. When things get tough, remember why you're doing this. Remind yourself of the goals you're working towards. Are you trying to improve your relationships? Are you trying to overcome anxiety? Are you trying to live a more fulfilling life? Keeping your why in mind will help you stay motivated and focused. These are just a few strategies, of course. The specific approach that works best for you will depend on your individual triggers, your personality, and your goals. The key is to be patient, persistent, and kind to yourself throughout the process. Now, let's talk about the benefits of confronting our triggers. Why is it worth the effort? Why should we choose this path, even when avoidance seems so much easier? Well, the most obvious benefit is that it helps us reduce the emotional impact of our triggers. By learning to manage our reactions, by developing coping mechanisms, we gradually disarm the trigger's power over us. We become less reactive, less easily overwhelmed, and more resilient in the face of adversity. We're no longer held hostage by our emotions, but the benefits go far beyond simply reducing the negative emotions. Confronting our triggers can also lead to significant personal growth. When we face our fears, when we step outside of our comfort zones, we learn more about ourselves. We discover hidden strengths, we build confidence, and we expand our capacity for empathy and understanding. Think about it. Every time you successfully navigate a trigger, every time you choose to confront your fears, you're not only reducing the trigger's power, you're also building your self-esteem. You're proving to yourself that you're capable, that you're strong, and that you can overcome challenges. This increased self-efficacy can have a ripple effect on all areas of your life. It can improve your relationships, boost your career prospects, and enhance your overall sense of well-being. Confronting our triggers also helps us develop a greater sense of control over our lives. When we're constantly avoiding things that make us uncomfortable, we're essentially giving those things power over us. We're allowing our fears to dictate our choices, to limit our experiences, and to prevent us from living the lives we truly want. But when we confront our triggers, we take back that control. We become the authors of our own stories. We decide how we're going to respond to life's challenges. We choose our own paths, and we create the lives we desire. Another important benefit of confronting triggers is that it can help us heal from past traumas. Many triggers are rooted in past experiences. They can be reminders of painful events or unresolved conflicts. By confronting these triggers in a safe and supportive environment, we can begin to process those past experiences. We can work through the emotions that are still holding us back, and we can begin to heal. This can be a long and challenging process, but it's also a deeply rewarding one. It can free us from the shackles of the past and allow us to live more fully in the present. Finally, confronting our triggers can lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. By exploring our own emotional landscape, by learning what makes us tick, we can develop greater self-awareness. We can start to recognize our patterns of behavior, our strengths, our weaknesses, and our blind spots. This self-awareness can then translate into greater empathy and understanding for others. We become more tolerant, more compassionate, and more able to connect with others on a deeper level. We learn to see the world from different perspectives, and we develop richer, more meaningful relationships. So, as you can see, the benefits of confronting our triggers are vast and far-reaching. They touch every aspect of our lives, from our emotional well-being to our relationships to our overall sense of purpose. It's not an easy path, but it's a path worth walking. Now, let's address a few common misconceptions about confronting triggers. These are things that often hold people back from taking the first step. Misconception number 1, it's going to be a quick fix. Confronting triggers is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process, a journey. There will be ups and downs, setbacks and breakthroughs. It takes time, patience, and consistent effort to see lasting results. Don't get discouraged if you don't see immediate changes. Keep going. Misconception number 2, it means I have to be perfect. You're going to mess up. You're going to react in ways you wish you hadn't. You're going to feel overwhelmed. That's okay. It's part of the process. Don't beat yourself up over it. Learn from your mistakes and keep moving forward. Misconception number 3, I have to do this alone. You don't. Seek support from friends, family, or a therapist. Talking about your experiences, sharing your struggles, and getting feedback from others can be incredibly helpful. You don't have to carry this burden on your own. Misconception number 4, it's going to be too painful. While confronting triggers can be uncomfortable and at times even painful, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start small, take things at your own pace, and focus on building your coping skills. Remember that you're in control and that you can always choose to take a break if you need to. Misconception 5, if I confront my triggers, they'll never bother me again. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Triggers can be persistent and they can resurface from time to time. The goal isn't necessarily to eliminate the triggers altogether. The goal is to reduce their power over you, to learn how to manage your reactions, and to live a life where you're not defined by your triggers. It's about building resilience, not achieving perfection. Misconception number 6, if I acknowledge my triggers, I'm admitting weakness. Quite the opposite. It takes courage to confront your vulnerabilities, to face your fears, and to work towards healing. It takes strength to acknowledge that you're human and that you're not perfect. That's not a weakness. That's a sign of strength. Hopefully, dispelling these misconceptions will help you approach this process with more clarity and confidence. So, to recap what we've discussed today, triggers are a natural part of the human experience. They can evoke strong emotional reactions within us, and it's tempting to avoid them. However, avoiding triggers can hinder our personal growth. By confronting our triggers, by standing in their midst, we can reduce their emotional impact, develop resilience, and ultimately live more fulfilling lives. We talked about strategies for confronting triggers, including awareness, gradual exposure, mindfulness, challenging negative thoughts, seeking support, practicing self-compassion, celebrating small victories, and remembering your why. We also discussed the many benefits of confronting triggers, including reduced emotional impact, personal growth, increased self-efficacy, greater control over our lives, healing from past traumas, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. And finally, we addressed some common misconceptions that might be holding you back. Remember, this is a journey, not a destination. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and celebrate every step you take, no matter how small. The path of confronting your triggers can be challenging, but it's also a path filled with growth, transformation, and the potential for a richer, more authentic life. Don't let your triggers dictate you. Instead, evolve from them and experience new growth. I truly hope this episode has provided you with some valuable insights and a renewed sense of hope. Remember, you are not alone, and you are capable of overcoming any challenge that comes your way. Thank you for joining me today on Unfiltered Reflections. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and keep shining your light.